my beloved, and welcome to another episode of the Ascension Cafe. Today, I've been very much guided to explore not just Kundalini, but our sexual energy, and also how that ripples out into the karmic relationships that we experience as a human being. I think it's really interesting when we talk about sex and ascension because sex has always been such a taboo subject, but really it isn't. It truly isn't, because as a human being, it is one of the most beautiful experiences that we can have. When we meet somebody who is aligned with our vibration, our frequency, that holds the same vision as us, and that is aligned with us, mind, body, and soul, we can truly have the most beautiful connection and experience. I want to dive straight in. I don't want to kind of mess about today. I really feel this is a topic that needs to be explored and spoke about so much more on the ascension path. But let's just go back a little bit and let's talk about Kundalini. Kundalini is a life force energy. It sits dormant at the base of our spine. It's often associated with our root chakra. It is often depicted as a serpent or a snake that is coiled at the base of your spine. And when you have a Kundalini awakening, that energy starts to rise up through the chakra columns, rising up through root, through the sacral, through your solar plexus, into your heart, your throat, third eye, and ultimately into the crown. It is a profound awakening process because as this energy, this life force energy, the Kundalini energy rises right from the base of your spine, right up through your chakra column, it clears and releases a lot of blocked, stagnant, emotional, and psychological energy. It can be a very grueling experience if it isn't approached in a loving and compassionate way, and it isn't done through a teacher or facilitator who is practiced and very wise and knowledgeable in Kundalini awakening. There should always be preparation done first. There should be a foundation created for the Kundalini awakening. And those who are going through that experience should be supported afterwards too, as these things arise for us, these very emotional releases. It is really quite powerful. Often or not, and this is why I felt so compelled to talk also about sexual and energy. Often not, when we have a Kundalini awakening, it can feel quite like a sexual experience. It can be quite shocking. I know I didn't really fully understand Kundalini when I had my first Kundalini awakening. And I'd gone into a deep meditation. I was in quite a trance meditation. It was a very powerful meditation. And all of a sudden, I started to experience quite sensual physical feelings in my body that were literally moving right around my whole root chakra area, including your genitalia. It was really quite powerful. And I had no idea what was happening. I actually panicked a little bit, in all honesty, snapped myself out of the meditation and started to research. I went into a slight panic thinking that was I in some way being infiltrated by some kind of entity, and that can happen, that can truly happen. But I then understood that actually this was the beginning of my Kundalini awakening. I had a number of similar experiences during breathwork and meditation practices after that, but I knew and understood what that was, and I could sense and feel that energy rising right up through my chakra column until it actually hit my solar plexus, and it ceased and stopped. And this happened several times. So I understood that clearly there was some heavy energy within my solar plexus that needed to be cleared out. I spent quite some time working on my solar plexus for a while, and this links to where we're moving next. But Kundalini is quite a powerful and very important part of the ascension process because it is that life force energy rising, that dormant energy that we have held within our energy system that is awakening and rising up. And it does do that profound clearing process. But it also actually, which is really beautiful, it also actually awakens a deep creativity within us. And it is a very expansive experience. A lot of people report after having a Kundalini awakening that their intuition, their perception really expands and becomes much more heightened, which is just beautiful. And that certainly happened for me. And I know many people I've worked with have also experienced that too. It's a beautiful, powerful experience. But as I said earlier, it must be carried out with a practitioner who really knows the subject matter. They know how to prepare a soul for a Kundalini awakening and then support them through that process thereon after. So, how does this link to sexual energy apart from just you can quite literally have what you're feeling like a sexual experience when you are having a Kundalini awakening? It is actually far more linked than we believe it to be. That creative life force energy of Kundalini, we very much can create also when we have a beautiful, loving experience, an intimate connection with another human being. The act of the orgasm can create this powerful, really powerful, potent, creative energy, the same as the Kundalini creative, potent energy. There is very important things that we need to be aware of. And I think when we go on our spiritual awakening, it is absolutely so important that we educate and make ourselves aware of the spirit are saying to me the pitfalls. So I'm going to use that word. They're literally saying to me the pitfalls of having intimate connections with souls who may not be of the same vibration as you. I'm not sharing this with any of you today in any way, shape, or form to put fear into people because really there is no fear to be had. It's just discernment. I talk all the time about discernment because it's so important. Once we are spiritually awake, we need to discern every area of our lives, every aspect of our lives. We must engage our discernment. So, beloved, when we engage in an act of sexual intimacy with another, we are literally fusing our energy in a sense. This is the best way to describe it, in a sense, together. So the act of sexual intimacy, we actually allow another's energy into our field of light. So if I just go back again a little bit, working on the principle that everything is energy and energy is everything. We are pure energy beings. We choose as a soul to come into a physical body to have a human experience. Through that human experience, one of the things we can experience that we can't in spirit is the act of sex. When we engage in the act of sex as an energetic being, our energy merges with the energy of the other person. When we have an orgasm during the act of sex, then we literally can open a portal together. And this is why it's very important we become discerning. Energy attracts energy of the like, of the same. If a person hasn't done the energy work, they're not spiritually awake or even spiritually awake, but they're not keeping up their energy management, their spiritual hygiene, just like you would your physical hygiene, then we can literally have open ourselves up to whatever they are carrying in that other person's field. So if that person is of a lower vibration than us, they're not doing their spiritual hygiene, they may have huge holes in their energy field and they may have entities running through their field. So just bear with me one moment. Sorry, I've just realized I haven't put my laptop on charge and it's just come up with a message. There you go. That's authenticity for you, isn't it? No editing here. So basically, if that person has holes in their energy field and they are of a low vibration, they will attract or more likely attract an entity or lower vibrational energy, or even a discarnate spirit to attach to their field. When you engage in an act of sex with that person, you then can make yourself vulnerable. Now, I'm not saying, we have to go around. This is where discernment comes in. I'm not saying we have to go around and go, no, they're not spiritually awake. I'm never going to have sex again. I'm on a spiritual awakening. I'm going to be completely celibate. Of course, I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is we have to use our discernment. And it is so good to educate ourselves and to understand that on our spiritual ascension, as we develop our knowledge and awareness, we are informed and empowered to make choices that are for our highest and greatest good. The beautiful thing about an intimate relationship, once we are spiritually awake, is that when we are aligned with somebody who is of the same vibration as us, and it is a loving, non-toxic, no codependency, beautiful, healthy relationship, the act of sex is so powerful and beautiful. It is amazing. And those two people who can come together in a divine union can literally co-create the most amazing things together. Because each and every time you engage in that beautiful act of loving intimacy with one another, you are absolutely and utterly activating each other's creative energy. And it's so powerful. It is beautiful. There's a song by Marvin Gaye, isn't there? Sexual Healing. And in our 3D self, we may say that we may view that song as a song about, just kind of trying to forget, toxic positivity, trying to forget bad experience and having, a sexual relationship with somebody else to try and forget that and just enjoy yourself. It runs so much more deeper than that. I personally have been through many challenging relationships, so we're going to move on to that now because it's all linked. We're going to move on to karmic relationships now. But one of the most beautiful things, and I will share this with you fully in a moment, this story fully with you in a moment, is when we choose to heal a relationship and to align with that relationship in the highest possible way by healing any toxicity between you, any codependency between you, and you truly love that person for who they are, and you truly are honoring and respecting one another in the most beautiful, pure sense of unconditional love, then it is powerfully healing. It is powerfully expansive. It is so beautiful. Karmic relationships are very much linked to the suppression, the blocking of our sexual creative energy, and also the blocking or distortion of Kundalini energy. But let's talk a little bit about karmic relationships before I share my own experience with you, which I am always so guided to do, because I truly believe when we're truly open and honest with others, when we feel empowered enough to be vulnerable and talk about our own experiences, we can absolutely and utterly help others, because we often not will recognize, even if the circumstances and situations are completely different, we will often not recognize that journey within our own lives. And it really helps us to understand the process that we may have been going through or going through right now, or indeed prepares us for any processes on our ascension path that we may encounter along the way. So, karmic relationships. As a soul, we come to Earth. Earth is a school. It is the most powerful school. Souls literally line up to have a human experience, because not only can we enjoy an intimate sexual relationship, which we can't in the same sense when we don't have a physical body, we can enjoy lots of other things like eating, and exploring the world. But the biggest, most important thing our souls want to garner by being human is actually to learn lessons, to heal, release, and overcome any karmic patterns too. Karmic relationships are a divine design. They are planned prior to our soul's birth into the human body, and is very much a divine orchestration of circumstances. So we meet people who will help us to go through a particular lesson that our soul wants to garner. I think the really interesting thing about a karmic relationship is that it will feel compelling, it will feel magnetic, it will feel irresistible. And even if there are red flags, something in us will be so drawn to that other person. And it doesn't just have to be a romantic relationship. We can have karmic friendships. We can have karmic colleagues at work. We can have karmic neighbors. We can have karmic family members. A karmic relationship is one where souls engage and connect with one another and go through a set of circumstances, a situation that will activate that learning. I think the really interesting thing about karmic relationships, in our humanness, we often describe them as toxic, codependent, abusive, narcissistic. But ultimately, they are all of those things. And some karmic relationships can be extremely traumatic, and can actually have quite long-term effects on you mentally, emotionally, and even physically, and yes, even spiritually. Some are much lighter touch. We will literally have that karmic experience with that person, learn the lesson, and you may part ways or you may not part ways. It doesn't always have to be an ending of a relationship, but it will be the ending of a cycle if you choose to recognize the karmic loop that you are in, because you might repeat the same lesson again and again and again. And then you choose to take action to heal that and to walk away from it and leave it in the past, because you've moved beyond that lesson and learned it. I think the best way to really help you to understand karmic relationships deeper, your own sexual energy, and maybe even how that is linked to Kundalini for you, but it may not be, is to share my own experience. Every relationship I have been in this lifetime, there has been betrayal, deceit, and lies, apart from one. And funny enough, I was very young when I met Gary. We were both very young. We kind of grew up together. He was a beautiful person. And when I reached 21, none of it made sense because he was a gorgeous person. He was reliable, dependable, gentle, kind, loving, all of the things that as a young woman I should have been looking for. But something in me knew that it had to end. So when I was 21, I actually finished that relationship. And it was very difficult. I had deep feelings. I cared so deeply for him. But I ended that relationship very soon after. And I'm only talking several months after I met my first husband. Everything in me should have been telling me to run as fast as I could. But that initial connection was so magnetic and so compelling that everything in me did the opposite to what it should have done. I was so drawn to him and he was to me. We were actually together for almost 20 years. Both of my daughters, he's the father to both of my daughters, biological father. We had, I would say, for quite a few years, a very good, strong relationship. We created a beautiful life together. We had two planned children who were very loved. I was in a bubble of blindness. My perception of our life together was very different to his. And it is only as the years gone on and since the relationship ended, I realized that he had numerous affairs, not just one, numerous. I was aware of two during our relationship. That in itself, by the time the relationship ended, because I stayed in that relationship way too long, I hadn't seen the patterns. I hadn't fully understood. I was not spiritually awake. I hadn't understood that my soul was here to learn lessons from that relationship. I walked away from that and straight into another relationship where exactly the same happened. And again, everything in me should have told me to run as fast as I could away from this man. I had known him when we were younger. We were very, very good friends through high school. We had a lot in common. We both were very into music, played musical instruments. We were in a band that toured the UK, a youth orchestra that toured the UK together. We were very close. We both loved dance and the arts, drama, all of that. But as a young woman, as a teenager, even though I knew he would like to have a relationship, I never went there. But there I was, 40 years old, just come out of a 20-year, almost 20-year relationship, not quite. Everything in me was drawn to him again when I should have been running a mile, even more, 10 miles, 100 miles away. That ended up as saying betrayal, lies, deceit. I have no idea how many other, in that 18-month period we were together, I have no idea how many other women he had a sexual relationship with. But here I was, quite broken from my first marriage, quite broken now from a relationship after my first marriage. I'd engaged not only in sex with both of those men, but with everyone. We say this, don't we? Everyone they had slept with energetically. My root chakra, my sacral chakra were completely blocked. When I spiritually awoke, which was probably around about the time that relationship finished, I had a lot of work to do on clearing my field, a lot of work to do. I then met Andrew, and Andrew, I have to say, is the most beautiful, beautiful soul, and our relationship 100% is a karmic connection. He definitely karmically has learned from me, and I karmically have learned from him. I've made mistakes, not in betrayal or anything like that, but I've made choices in our relationship that have hurt him. And he too has made choices in our relationship that has hurt me. But the big fundamental difference was I was spiritually awake. I recognized the lessons. I was able to help him to recognize his lessons and to heal from those. And instead of this time finishing the relationship and walking away when things went wrong, when truths were outed, I knew that this was about a healing process. And Andrew and I have gone through a beautiful healing process together, and we're still in it now. We're not back yet. We're not back. We're not where we quite need to be yet. And that's not him, that's me. I take my sweet time on everything these days. I don't rush, I take my time on everything. But I am healing, and he is too. And the beautiful thing is, what has tied into all of this karmic lessons between us both is releasing toxic traits that I had developed as a wounded feminine and toxic traits that he had developed as a wounded masculine. We've been able to be completely vulnerable with each other, completely open with each other, and honest with each other about our feelings, and not to keep anything secret from each other anymore. And the beautiful thing is, we are now at the very beginning, the cusp of a whole new phase, not just in our relationships, in our relationship with one another, but in our lives. And this is what happens when we recognize the karmic relationship, when we recognize the karmic lessons, when we choose to do the inner work, to heal, release from them, and to move forward and let them go, to let the past be what it is and never look back. Okay, it's done. To just move forward, then we can open the door to a whole new phase. Sometimes relationships do end, and sometimes they end in a beautifully mutual agreement. They don't always have to be traumatic, but sometimes they are traumatic because that other person may not have learned their lessons, but you can't stay there to help them. You have to honor, this is sovereignty. You have to honor your path. And there was a short period of time where Andrew was very honest with me, and he'd say to me, I'm so frightened of losing you because of your spiritual awakening and your ascension. I feel you're leaving me behind. And I'd say to him, well, no, I'm not. I'm not at all. You are healing just as much as I. It's just because of the work I do and the way I talk and the person I truly am, because I've let go of all of that falsehood. I'm just more out there and open about it. But you're ascending just as much as me, and you're healing just as much as me. And now he recognizes and understands that, and he sees that now that things have shifted in our relationship, we bring different energy to the table because he's bringing his divine masculine and I'm bringing my divine feminine instead of the wounded of those two counterparts. So, beloveds, I hope me sharing that story with us helped you. Karmic relationships, as I said, aren't always a romantic relationship. I've had karmic friendships too that have broken my heart, absolutely broken my heart. But I have seen that they are karmic relationships, and I know that on a soul level, we love each other unconditionally, and we will share many more lifetimes together, I'm sure. And there isn't just one of those friendships, there is several. So, beloved, I really hope all of this today has helped you to see where maybe a karmic relationship that is unresolved, maybe blocking your sensual, sexual energy, your creativity, that maybe you're being guided towards a Kundalini awakening because you're ready now to flow that energy right through your channel. But maybe also where a karmic relationship that is not resolved could be blocking that aspect of your ascension path, your Kundalini awakening. It is all interlinked. Everything on the ascension path is interlinked, whether that is, a karmic relationship, a Kundalini awakening, the beautiful, absolutely gorgeous experience of a divine union and that sexual intimacy, or whether it is everything else in our ascension path, connecting with spirit, with angels, having those awakening experiences of seeing spirit, hearing spirit, whether it is going through a healing process or even deepening your knowledge or wisdom. It is all bringing us, every single aspect of our ascension path is bringing us back to us and to sovereignty. And sovereignty is the mastery of the self. Sovereignty is taking ownership of your own spiritual path and all of the aspects of it, and not allowing anyone, whether it's karmic relationship or not, or anything, whatever needs to be blocked, released, decluttered, healed, released, whatever it is, to stand in your way of your spiritual growth. Sovereignty is the key to ascension. It is self-mastery. So, beloveds, I hope that's helped you today. And may you walk through this week with much more clarity and deeper wisdom. If you haven't already joined the Ascension Cafe community online, I invite you to join. The link will be on this vlog and podcast, and also on my blog on my website, carrynot.com. If you haven't already joined, I invite you to join us. It's completely free. This layer of the Ascension Cafe community, you will receive live transmissions. So I'll just share as and when I'm guided from spirit, from my higher team of light. You will be guided, you will receive free live transmissions. They could be meditations, it could be breath work, it might be channeling information, sharing information. I might even feel called to pull some cards for us all as a collective. You will also receive a once a month workshop where I will be guided for us to move into a deep container together as a collective to heal and release whatever we need to heal and release at that time. And we'll do some beautiful planetary service work together there too. I also invite you to the Ascension Path. This is a paid membership. This is a deeper layer to the work I'm doing right now. We meet 3 times a month to do some very deep ascension work that may be healing, clearing, releasing, just like what I've talked about in today's episode. It may be more ascension activations, upgrading our light bodies, building our light bodies. It may even be deep soul remembrance work, remembering what you hold within your divine blueprint, why you are here, what your purpose, your path is. It is the ascension path from a 360 holistic approach of mind, body, soul. And if you are feeling really the calling to join me on the ascension path, it is £33 and 44 pence, a month. We also have a once a month Q&A session where I will literally just jump onto Zoom. We won't be doing any particular ascension work as such, but it will be a very powerfully reflective process. And you can just jump on and join me if you feel guided to, and we can go through some exploration together. So, beloveds, I hope you have the most beautiful and blessed week ahead. If you feel guided or called to join me in the Ascension Path, again, the link is on this vlog and blog, and it is also more information, and the link to join is on my website, carryknott.com. Thank you for joining me today's episode, and may you have the most beautiful and blessed week. It's love and blessings from me, Carrie Knott, in the Ascension Cafe.